what's up? Check out this blunt and honest review from the Jock and Nerd Podcast. That's us. My name is Imran.
My name's Anthony.
He's the jock.
He's the nerd.
And he's the rug boy.
What's up, guys?
Jock and Nerd. Okay, let's get to this week's movie review. We are going to be discussing the remake, reimagining, reboot, I'm not sure what it is, of The Crow. Here's your spoiler alerts.
Strap yourselves in, you fucks. Spoiler time.
So look, the story so far, The Crow, a graphic novel created by James O'Barr, 1989. Very dark, goth, very filled with grief. He wrote this because he lost his girlfriend or fiance in a drunk driving car accident. Writes this book, 1994, of course, a movie comes out with Brandon Lee. Infamously, the movie where he is shot with a prop gun and dies on set, a lot like his father, Bruce Lee, during the making of a movie. And then subsequent sequels come out.
His dad didn't die on set.
Well, didn't he die from, it wasn't like movie set related. How did Bruce Lee die?
He just had some heart thing or whatever. Didn't he?
Oh, I thought
he died really young.
Yeah, he died about the age. I thought a similar thing.
Yeah,
no, Bruce Lee died like at home. He had like worked all day and came home and then he died.
Oh man.
So or went back to his place and he died. Brandon Lee also died in a hospital, I believe. I think they actually got him to a hospital.
Oh, you're right, both of you are right. He was recording an automated dialogue replacement for Enter the Dragon.
Oh shit.
He was having seizures and a headache, and he had cerebral edema and died.
Holy shit! He was just recording ADR for fucking the movie,
right?
And
he took a nap and didn't get up.
Jesus, at 32, and I believe, how old was Brandon Lee when he died? I believe he was also
he was a young guy. I think he was also in his 30s.
Yeah. Anyways, crazy like Lee family curse or whatever.
Yeah, Lee family curse.
But the movie is a cult classic now because of that, because of Brandon Lee's performance, because of the music, the soundtrack, Alex Proyas directing, right? Multiple sequels come out, and now we are at the 5th film in the franchise. But this is actually the second movie to adapt the 1989 comic, as what they said they were trying to do.
That's correct.
Allegedly try to adapt.
So in the original comic book, it's a story of Eric Draven and Shelley.
Correct.
This doomed couple that were either about to get married or, they were betrothed to each other.
Yes.
And all the subsequent movies were about different people, clearly different people.
Yes, different characters that had similar tragedies, but the Crow brings them back.
Right.
To make right what was wrong.
So this is basically the remake of it's based on the comic. It's retreading in other footsteps, which is like Brandon Lee's Crow. So
yes, but the big thing is these are the characters Eric and Shelley also, which is a big thing for this movie to do. Anyways, here's the story of The Crow and Rotten Tomatoes. Let's do it this way. The original, 86%, 1994, 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. 2 years later, they gave us Crow, City of Angels, 1996, 14%. Big drop off. In 2000. The Crow Salvation. This one has Kristen Dunst in it, believe it or not. 18%. So a little marginally better. Then we go to 2005, The Crow Wicked Prayer, Eddie Furlong, in a 0% Rotten Tomatoes movie.
Oh, shit.
Which brings us to The Crow 2024. It is currently 20% tomato meter. 64% audience rating. All right. This movie was made for $50 million and just fucking shits the bed. It opens at number 8 with $4.6 million opening weekend. Number 8. You know what was number 7? The fucking re-release of Coraline, that Tim Burton stop motion picture. Limited.
That's not good.
No, limited re-release. This is 2 back-to-back duds for Lionsgate. They also just put out fucking Borderlands.
Oh, God.
Like, this could bankrupt fucking Lionsgate Pictures. It's just disaster. In the meantime, Daredevil Wolverine opened back at number 1. Alien Romulus had taken the number 1 spot last week. Daredevil Wolverine reclaimed the #1 spot. It is officially the highest grossing R-rated movie of all time. It's at $1.2 billion worldwide. It's the 8th highest grossing superhero movie ever and still climbing. I think it could go maybe a little bit more.
Wow.
Crazy numbers. And it's just also, there's a bunch of reasons why it underperformed. It's like back to school weekend, bad marketing. We'll get into all that. This movie is brought to you by director Rupert Sanders. Ruggs, what do we know the Rupert Sanders from?
He did Snow White and the Huntsman and
Correct.
Ghost in the Shell.
And Ghost in the Shell. I haven't seen either one of those. Have I?
Actually, I think both of those movies are decently made films.
Did I see Ghost in the Shell?
It's just that he kind of made the wrong call with putting ScarJo as this this character that we associate with being Asian.
Oh yeah, I remember that big
whatever. You can make that association, but she's she's got purple hair. You don't really know what
that movie was all right. I do kind of remember it. It was okay, but
I think he's been in controversy every movie. Like I think he fucked Kristen Stewart.
Oh yeah,
It
was something like that. Like while they were working on a movie or something.
This guy's like an unhinged dude.
Yeah, Rupert Sanders. So screenplay by Zach Balin, William Schneider, starring
Bo DeMeo. No,
I'm gonna say it. It's a bunch of these dudes in Hollywood apparently. Starring Bill Skarsgård as Eric, and they just list him as Eric. They don't actually say Eric Draven. Eric.
I don't think they wanted to.
Yeah, they didn't want to go that far.
Route.
They might have edited out of the movie when people were starting to shit on this movie.
Just put Draven on there. What are you doing? FKA Twigs is a person, a musician,
formerly known as Twigs.
Formerly, is that what that means? Formerly known as FKA Twigs. She's playing Shelley. You got Danny Houston, who always plays the bad guy in movies as the bad guy. Vincent Roeg.
He was like the bad guy in Wonder Woman, right?
Wasn't that Pedro Pascal? Oh, the first one. Yes, in the first one. He was in the second one. Yes, Danny Houston, always a bad guy, always British, I guess. And then I don't know. I'm not even going to read these other people. Josette Simon as Sophia. You got Sammy Baugila as Kronos, the guy in Purgatory. I don't really know any of these other people, and they're all kind of forgettable. Anyway, Isabel Way as Zadie, which you meet in the beginning. Regardless, Anthony.
Yes.
What happens in this R-rated 1 hour, 51 minute? It's the longest Crow movie also out of all of them. What happens in The Crow 2024?
Well, this is about a guy and a girl that meet in prison.
Rehab. It's not prison.
Oh, whatever the fuck that is. I don't know what that is, to be honest with you. They meet somewhere. They fall in love. And the girl is involved in some sort of crime with some dark people. Because of this, they both get killed. And for whatever reason, he gets to come back and avenge her. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, it's your basic Crow setup.
Revenge story with, your Crow supernatural setup.
Yeah. All right. So you watched the first movie because we reviewed it, right?
Yeah. I only seen the first movie because, you made me watch it. And then I have not watched any Crows. And it doesn't sound like I need to watch any Crows.
Don't worry about those other ones. I'm glad you watched that first one as a basis because it's hard. It's going to be hard not to compare it to it because it's trying to do the same thing. But when the movie was over, how are you feeling?
Oh, so I wasn't the biggest fan of the first Crow. I like it. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a good movie. It's just not the supernatural gothic stuff is not my jam.
You had to be there.
I never was sitting in a dark room lighting candles and playing
The Cure. You didn't have The Cure in the background.
Or Trent Reznor or whatever. Yeah.
Nine Inch Nails. No.
Yeah. No, that wasn't me. That never was me. Okay. But I can appreciate The Crow for what it was. It's a moody, it's a film that where you get in there and you go, that's you get immersed into that. This movie is outside of two scenes really is just really boring. I think that's one of the first takeaways I had as I was watching the film. It's a 2-hour movie almost. And I looked at my phone a few times, like, what time is it? Like where are we at? I think the movie has a lot of problems with how it's paced. they go a lot deeper into the relationship between Eric and the girl. Not sure it's all that exciting to watch. It's just them wanting to fuck all the time
and do drugs.
And then so you're waiting for them to die because that's part of the whole gig.
Yeah.
That takes a while. Then he becomes the Crow, but he's still not fully the Crow, so he's kind of bumbling around and figuring out what's going on. And they try to do a little bit more of a realistic take in that, he wouldn't be just this superhero right off the bat.
Right.
But that's really boring too. And Skarsgård, he's physically a pretty impressive looking guy. And he has a look to him for sure.
Yeah.
Wasn't really the biggest fan of the way he was delivering a lot of the lines. I thought the tone was really goofy at times. Like sometimes they were playing some really light music. Some of the soundtrack was really odd. It was just a really weird experience. I mean, other than the opera fight scene, which at times I did think was pretty creative with the sword and how he was killing people, and it was very bloody. To the point where I was going like literally like squeamish in my seat watching some of the different stuff. But yeah, it's just a really boring movie. The dude being the main villain having superpowers was also a twist, I guess. I don't know. A lot of the things they did just didn't really work. I don't know. I don't really know. And there's not, I mean, it has a dark vibe, but it's not completely as gothic. So it doesn't really have its own tone either. And it doesn't really get into a feel or a vibe until the opera kill stuff.
Yeah.
So I feel like the movie's really just like two scenes and they're not good enough to save the movie. So that's what I think.
That's pretty accurate. You get to that opera scene and you're like, where was this the rest of the fucking movie? What is happening? Ruggs, what'd you think? What happened here?
Lots of mistakes were made.
What happened?
I'm sure he's got way more thoughts.
And lots of mistakes were made. The first thing that they did wrong was they used Eric Draven and Shelley. If you're going to use those names, that particular Eric and Shelley, they can only be the Eric and Shelley.
They're certain characters, yes.
Yeah, it's like Peter and Mary Jane.
Yes.
They're synonymous with a certain story.
Correct.
So they fucked up right there from the get-go.
That's a big fuck up right there.
I think that the casting was a little bit weird for both of them. I think Bill Skarsgård has an accent, and for some reason it comes and goes, and that's a little distracting. And then FKA Twigs is not the best actress.
Yeah,
and she just seems a little too childish for this movie. Maybe they're trying to go for some innocent thing, but nothing that they did kind of worked. It seemed like she was like a teenager almost.
Was she a former prostitute or something? Like, she's not innocent. She's doing drugs. She's hanging out with bad people.
Well, yeah, that's what they do, kids. But it doesn't make you like them. Right. At all.
Yes. Likability is a problem.
There's not a likability.
No, there's no.
Yeah, you don't really.
None of them.
You don't really fall in love with either one of them.
Yes.
Unless you're just going purely on the visual. I don't know. He's covered in tattoos. He has this opening scene with a horse.
That's from the comic.
It's
the only thing from the comic book. That's the only thing.
That's from the comics, but they never really get into anything from there.
They never build on how fucked up that happened.
Yeah.
That made
you see a shot of the trailer, you see a shot of this lady in the trailer, but you never really understand, even in that shot, like, where is he in the trailer? Is he sleeping somewhere? Is he wake up? And it's just like,
was she doing drugs or something? Like, are they trying to show?
It was disorienting. And I don't think in that moment, of course, if you watch it on video, you could slow it down. But when you're in the moment in the theater, it washes over you and you don't even know what you're looking at. And it doesn't really give you anything to go off of other than that there's some tragedy here.
Right. This is why he is a sad emo boy.
And then he's in a co-ed.
Yes, that's weird.
He's in a co-ed rehab prison where they wear pink. Whatever.
Yes, everybody's wearing pink. It's very strange.
And he's everybody's bullying him around.
Yeah.
And
why?
He refuses to talk. And it's fine. And then Shelley shows up because she's on the run. She tricks cops and she deliberately puts drugs on the in front of cops so
she gets arrested on purpose. But couldn't she have just been like, this dude is following me? Can you help?
Or
the cops are corrupt too. They get into that.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. The bad guy just didn't really work either. He was interesting, but they never did anything with that. And then the thing that I hated the most was this in between.
The purgatory area.
The purgatory did not work.
Silly.
It was way more effective when he just fucking rises from the grave.
Yeah.
And just pulls himself out of the fucking grave. Yeah. And then this crow, like in the Brandon Lee movie, they did it perfectly. The crow shows up.
Yeah.
And then just kind of like he starts following it.
He knows. Yeah.
Like a zombie.
Yeah.
And he just knows, like, all right, like I'm alive. And like the crow. In the comic book, there's this like skeleton headed guy,
skeleton cowboy. Yes,
he's kind of the guy. Kind of talks to him.
Yeah,
and they tried to do that with whatever this guy Kronos is.
Yeah,
but it's not effective, and it just doesn't work for me. This whole drowning in the water, none of that worked. I thought that's confusing. This whole deal that he's making for her soul, none of that worked. All of that was just overcomplicating something that's very, very elegant.
Yes. So, that's the one big problem with this movie.
So then you have this romance that happens, and you don't know what period of time it takes.
Right.
All of a sudden, there's like these smash cuts to like all of a sudden they're in Eric's place, and they've never established Eric's place.
Yeah,
right.
That he even has a place.
He's got shitty drawings on the wall. He wasn't even that good of an artist.
So, like when all the neon and
like
the
how
mannequins,
long did they know each other? How much time has passed?
He knew the way out of the prison and never decided to, or way out of the rehab.
Them breaking out of the prison is still laughable. It's like, let's just cut the trackers off.
They cut get out. Climb out the window. They escape so easily, and nobody is looking for them at all ever from the place, except for those people.
So, like, even the stuff that happens isn't like good enough. Okay, like every movie's got contrivances and every movie kind of does. But like when you're trying to pin, like, first of all, you're coming in with the pedigree of The Crow, which is questionable, right? You got a lot of shitty movies that are called The Crow. But now you got like you have enough time, and you've said to everybody, you got a legitimate director, like who's directed a couple of big movies, to come in and do it. So there's a lot more on the table here. You're not doing like The Crow Wicked Prayer, where like this director's got like $1 million to make this movie. This is a $50 million movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not slumming it. They got a lot of resources here that they can use. So to kind of like make this movie as boring as it was, and almost nothing clicks, nothing works, until you get to that opera scene where finally, like, okay, now you can see the talent of this director, and how he can cobble together a nice, interesting scene. But there's a whole opera going on.
Oh my God! Nobody heard any of those fucking gunshots.
And no one hears these gunshots.
How loud is this opera?
There's a lot of gunshots.
There was a lot. Nobody hears anything. Get the fuck out of here. That is the best scene in the movie.
Yeah. So is it the worst thing I've ever seen? Yeah. No, I've seen way more worse movies, but not this is pretty bad for a $50 million movie.
It's not the worst, but it's disappointing. And I agree with everything you guys said. When it ended, I was like, how the fuck do you make a boring revenge action movie? What the fuck?
She rises from the dead, like back in time.
So wait, we'll get to that, because I fucking fell asleep at the end of this movie. It was so hard for me. But just like you, Anthony, 40 minutes in, I'm like, is anything going to happen? It's so pointless and soulless, and it takes forever, has no momentum. He, like you said, he becomes the Crow, but he doesn't really become the Crow until like the final act, where he doubts his love, and Kronos is like, oh, you're powered by love. You can't doubt the love. You lose your powers. And then like the black goo makeup comes on, and then he's kind of activated. And this is like the last 20 fucking minutes of the movie. We have already sat through like an hour and a half of bullshit to get to here.
But like, this is the problem. It's the contrivance of Shelley can't tell Eric Draven that the guy
made her do it.
The guy made her do it because he's got video. Powers.
Yeah. Why?
You know, he would immediately not be like, "Oh, Shelley, you're a piece of shit. I can't love you anymore."
Yeah,
like, that's like a stupid plot contrivance.
I was waiting for her to be like, "Look, I got to tell you something. That's why I'm on the run." She never explains once why she's running from these people.
It's just they needed it to happen so they could make him the Crow.
Yes, it's all just because of plot. Things are over-explained. There's too much exposition. There's too much complication. It takes away the mystery and kind of the ambiguity this movie needs. Like, first of all, on paper, getting to know Eric and Shelley a little bit before they get double murdered, I guess kind of makes sense, I thought. But then I thought about it some more, and I was like, do we really need to know Shelley? Like, the Shelley is not the point. The point is his love and his vengeance, and all the Crow movies, you start. In the first one, minute 16, he's the fucking Crow.
Right. You
start with the murder. Things are shown in flashback.
And the thing is about that whole movie has this goth feel to it.
Yes, it's consistent.
So the fact that he paints his face like a goth would makes sense. There's no gothic thing going on in this movie that is like pronounced enough. Now, they had an opportunity with the drawings to do something with it.
Yeah.
Like, imagine Shelley's going through his drawings and he's drawing this face.
Crow figure. Yeah. Like
this face. He's like, what is he? He haunts my dreams.
Yeah. That'd be great.
I feel like it's speaking to me, but I don't know what it is. So then when he finally comes back from the dead, he knows that he's the Crow.
What were those shitty
like
scribbled drawings? Like, what the fuck was that? Like,
they were just all meaningless. They were all like he drew her. I don't know. He's drawing his images from his past that we never actually see or make sense of.
So
he's got something scrawled on his back, tattoo, but they didn't linger long enough to actually read it.
Yeah.
But it's probably some bullshit you don't care about.
In the first one, he's a musician, and they switched it to making her a musician. But FKA Twigs, look, maybe your music is good. I've not heard it. I did not care for this person at all. The two have no chemistry at all.
She's dated around a lot of people, though.
Really?
Yeah.
She's not good. Like, they had zero chemistry. I didn't buy any of this shit. So when they die, I didn't give a fuck, even though you made me spend like an hour with them. And them doing drugs. First of all, she's got some friend that's got a nice apartment. I don't know where they're getting money from to do anything, and the clothes fit. So she must have a tall, lanky friend. It's very strange. But them doing drugs really was weird, because remember in the first one, he helps Darla's mom get off morphine, and it's all like J.O. Barr is like his fiance was killed by a drunk driver. It's very anti-substance abuse. And the point is, Eric and Shelley, these are really good people who, by a random act of senseless violence, their lives are ended short. That you don't have to explain anything else. And that's not what we get here. We get a guy who's sad, who just gets fucking sadder. And remember also in the first one how Brandon Lee had jokes and he would smile. I mean, I love the whole moving you're dead. And he goes, I say I'm dead and I move. And he's got a little girl that's friendly. Like, he's kind of heartwarming and friendly.
The movie's got so much more going for it, The Other Crow.
This is just like, I don't give a shit about this fucking emo dude who's just like, why?
Even like the bad guys, they all had fun names.
Yes, you got Tintin.
And he takes them down one by one.
Yes. These ones, you got these dudes in suits who were probably just there for a paycheck and had no idea.
They're just there at the wrong.
They were like, what? My wife needs me to pick up the chicken later on my way home. And boom, you got a knife through the head.
That's that was one of the things that went through my head when in the opera scene was, these are really cool kills. Do any of these guys deserve to get killed?
No, they don't. This is not what they signed up for.
Are these just opera house security?
Why are they sacking down?
No, they work for Danny Houston, but honestly, they're jobbers, right? They're just a gig. The guy's probably got a couple other jobs.
We didn't even know what Danny Houston was about. We didn't know what his character was.
So he made a deal with the devil so he can stay alive, and he will.
What is he doing? Is he owns a conglomerate of some kind? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, and what was the deal with the whole? I thought they were building towards something with the Vienna Austrian piano player.
Oh yeah, what was that? Why did he have her around with him?
He was around a lot, and I was going, oh, maybe this is an uncorruptible soul, because he was saying how there's, he's not doing anything. There's darkness in the people, and he's just exposing it. And I thought that was going to tie into, maybe he has this girl and he tries to corrupt this uncorruptible soul, and she's the one that actually leads to his death because she's uncorruptible.
That'd have been great. What was the point of this?
That would have been something, but they completely dropped that whole thing. Like, I don't even know why she was there, why they were even focusing on her.
He's like, I'll kill her later. I'm just going to keep you around.
But they just drop her. She doesn't even exist.
And then she disappears.
The third act.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very strange.
The movie is, there's a lot of, when you have to compare it to the original Crow,
It's half-baked.
Yeah. It's a lot of, this would be a good idea. This is how we could help. We could change it up. Here's this guy we have. He kind of looks like Brandon Lee. He's got a weird look. Yeah. That's good. But yeah, you're right. It's there's not enough there that they could have like mined to actually make an interesting story. So for 3/4 of the movie, I'm sitting there going, this is the Crow? Like this is not, I mean, I don't even the original Crow, while not my favorite type of tone of a movie, I was still going, this movie, you feel shit throughout this entire movie. Like there's a certain je ne sais quoi, there's a vibe to this whole thing.
The movie has a soul.
You got Michael Wincott as the bad guy.
Yeah, come on. There's just a lot to chew on here. Whereas this movie, there's not a ton to chew on. No. It's just very boring, which is really sad.
It is sad. And like the opera house scene is the best, but you can just watch it on YouTube.
I don't understand why you ramp down the action. So, like if anything, double down on the action. If you're going to make a Crow movie now, have that opera scene, but like have like 3 or 4 scenes.
Yes,
like
the whole movie should have been like that. That should have been him picking everybody off in crazy scenes like that.
Right. Maybe they just didn't have the money and they wanted to film him underwater. I don't know.
Yeah, they
just kept wanting to film people in water.
It's like we need the shallow
pool. The way that they die is terrible too. Like, so if you compare the way Shelley dies, Shelley gets fucking gang raped.
Yeah, it's horrible.
And then thrown out a window.
Yeah, and he's watching this.
And then she goes to the hospital and suffers for hours and hours and hours. Yeah. And then at the end of the movie, the Crow uses all of that pain to kill Michael Wincott.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And pumps that into him.
That is poetic.
And that's poetic, yes.
Yeah. They also changed the fact that like he feels pain. He can heal, but like the others, I don't think ever they didn't feel pain. You just walk right through.
I don't mind him feeling pain. I don't think that's a bad.
See, I mean, I see what they were trying to do. He's trying to learn his powers, but he's very incompetent. He gets thrown out of cars. He gets run over. His fucking knee leg snaps open, and then I don't know. I get that it's even more unbelievable in the first one where he comes back and he's just a badass and knows everything and how his powers work. But there's something cool about that confidence that he rarely shows until the very end.
I kind of get what they were trying to do with the villain, make him supernatural. So now you have this supernatural being, because the first Crow,
he's supernatural.
He's supernatural, and the other guys aren't, and he kind of walks through most of them.
Yeah,
But I just don't. When you throw in the deal with the devil type thing, and I'm like, where does this fit in with the Crow?
Yeah.
What's the deal with the purgatory? Like that even is kind of half baked too. So it's all like, how does this all jive? Like, why does he become the Crow, and why does this guy get a chance to talk to the devil and all that shit?
It would have been cool if the bad guy was like a crow.
Right. That's what I would have gone.
Like that he never died. Like he came back, but then he just like didn't give a shit anymore. To
stuck around and didn't finish what he had to do.
Yeah, he became a crow. Yeah, and like just used it nefariously. Yeah, so then he started being this asshole Crow.
And he's been around for a long time. Were they trying to make it seem like Kronos had like a personal vendetta against Danny Houston's character?
Yeah.
See, that doesn't make any sense either. Like that changes it removes the whole purpose of the fucking Crow.
Yeah, it's just overcomplicated.
Why do they overcomplicate everything?
It was almost as if this wasn't a random murder. It was like, you are the guy to avenge this because this murder is linked to the guy that with the deal with the devil, and we need to get him out of here.
Ugh, and that's what happens when you try to explain why they get murdered. You don't need to do that. It should be random, violent act of two nice people that you can't explain, and shit just happens.
What about when she gets resurrected? Okay. It's like nothing ever happened.
So let's talk about the ending, because I did kind of fall asleep at the very end. So he goes through the whole opera scene, and then later, and some of those, it had me going, oh, and reacting like when he snaps the dude's neck, or when the knife goes through the guy's mouth. Like there were some violent kills, and I was like, this is fantastic. But then it slows down, and then how does he kill Danny Houston's character, Roig?
He pushes him into the water, and then the devils take him.
Pulls him in. That's right. Okay. And so,
he puts his ass in the water,
by this point, he has decided, because he failed his mission, he's going to trade his soul for Shelley's. He tells Kronos, "Take me instead, save her." And then we see her get revived right where she died, and his body is next to her. So did none of this happen? The fuck happened?
That's a weird call right there.
The dream
what the fuck? Because the beauty of the crow is that he kills everyone and they're reunited and he gets to live with his fucking beloved.
Yeah.
Well, now they're going with the whole sacrifice angle because it's true love. And that's what motivates him is he has to have love and then he doesn't have love for her. But you're right. I mean, what the fuck? I didn't think about it at the time, but her waking up back in time also is a really strange idea.
Yeah, what the fuck is this?
So this asshole's not dead then.
So apparently according to Bill Skarsgård, they changed the ending to leave it open for a sequel. It's a little sequel bait. That maybe he's still stuck.
Where's the bait in the sequel though?
Is he still in between worlds? Is he stuck? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a weird.
There's no sequel here.
It don't make sense. They're not making a fucking sequel. This thing, nobody's not making money.
Here, I'll give it one. I'll give it a couple of things of credit. And this is the only credit I'll give it.
Yeah.
In the opera scene, I like the part where he has the knife or the sword in his own body and stabs someone else.
Yeah, that's good.
And then I also liked when he cuts the guy's face open with the sword.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Some of those kills were pretty fun. Yeah. Still don't understand why he's killing all of them. There's a part of me that is going, those guys got to be just getting paid $15 an hour.
Exactly. They were hourly fucking workers that they don't have insurance. They did not come in for this.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for them. And you need the fun bad. But you're right. That's it. I mean, the scene where he gets into the vehicle where he tries to shoot him and then ends up inside. It's okay. But
Yeah,
he gets kicked out of the car and get run over and he's not very good at his job.
Why does he cut the heads off the people and throw them into the crowd?
Oh, I don't know. Just to be creepy? That was weird.
What did those people have any to do with it?
That's pretty intense.
What? And Shelley's mom, what was her part in this?
With that? Yeah, that was another strange idea.
She had photos of herself and what the fuck? What was she doing?
Yeah,
I guess she had made a deal with the devil to offer up her innocent daughter in exchange for him not. I think that was what they were going with.
That's what she did?
I think that she basically traded her daughter for riches.
What a shitty mom.
And for him to not bother her.
Oh, leave him alone.
Yeah, that was a whole other weird thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a lot of, you're right. I guess I didn't even think of the term, but Ruggs is right. It's just a very half-baked movie.
Half-baked.
It's like they have these ideas that they thought, when you make a movie and you do it right and you don't want to, you just want to infer things and not explain it. They have to fall into a certain line so you can make those connections without having to do too much work. This is giving you so little and and none of it actually coalesces together. So when you do think about it, it does make it's just okay, you did that, but it doesn't really help at all.
Right.
It's kind of yeah, but we did this, but no, but that doesn't really do anything for the movie. It doesn't really explain something. Oh, that all of a sudden it makes sense. No, it's just all right, well, you didn't even need to do that. A lot of this was, you didn't really need to do this.
You didn't need to do the whole movie. Look, it'd have been one thing.
Sorry, real quick. It's also an odd choice to start the movie with that horse scene, which is disturbing. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But then you take the first quarter of the movie and instead focus on Shelley.
Yeah.
So now, and then we meet Eric later, but we don't really know why he's there or what his backstory is. And we get it told through flashbacks a little in a montage, but it's a weird choice to focus on Shelley, not make her all that interesting, and then be like, okay, she dies. Now you got to follow Eric.
Yeah. I mean, it would have been one thing if she was an interesting character, but yeah, he's just following her around like a little puppy dog. It's kind of weird. And I don't buy their chemistry. This is the girl you came back for. You just met this girl. And what are you doing? Just the girl you're going to come back from?
They should have expanded on, he's had no family and he's had no life and he's never had anyone love him and his horse died. I don't know.
So that's the thing I was going to say. Either don't call it the Crow movie. That might have saved it. Or if it's the Crow, don't make it Eric and Shelley because that's not fucking Eric Draven. Yeah. It's not the character.
Yeah, I mean, this is a legitimate franchise in the hands of somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because it's like Final Destination or whatever. Sure. Any of these movies where it's just a situation that happens. Yeah. It's not like Final Destination is all about death coming for you, right? and a different group of people every time have to deal with the fact that they're trying to cheat death.
Yeah.
And this is the crow. It's like the crow is the crow. The crow is not the person. It's the crow that leads you to the people to revenge, right? Yeah. So it carries your soul back. You reanimate, and then the crow shows you the way. Okay, go kill those guys that fucking did you wrong. Go right these wrongs, and you can go back into peace and be with the one that you love. And that's about making a soul that's not at rest, at peace.
Right.
And that's all you have to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be Eric Draven. It doesn't have to be goth. It could be in any way, but it has to be fucking an action movie. And it has to like be entertaining. Like you can't just make a shitty movie and call it The Crow.
It's got to be entertaining, and yeah, it's kind of a formula, and the sequels follow the formula. But the formula works.
If you really want, it'd be nice to like have a little bit of because The Crow is a very dark, it's about death. So have maybe a little bit of that art direction in there, a little bit of that, not gothic, but morose, yes. Like kind of like Tim Burton-y, like
a little creepy,
a little bit of a creepy edge to it.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna have a guy fucking put face paint on, make it have a reason that's cool. All right.
I mean, it's not because he found some ink at a ink shop.
Well, no, it's just like I can understand in the comic book, there was an interplay of like he goes back to his apartment. He just sees this mask.
Yeah.
And that's how he feels. So he puts the paint on his face to kind of mimic the mask.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he kind of did that in the Brandon Lee movie where he like punches the mirror. He doesn't want to even see his face. And then he sees the mask and then he just starts painting his face like a mask. So, I mean, there's more of a connection to why they do that. They had the tattoos here, but they didn't do anything with that. So everything was half baked. Like, figure out a better reason for the face paint.
Things just happen to happen. There, yeah. Other unanswerable questions. Why is it always raining? This movie. It did always rain in the first one. It was always raining. Like every time they were outside a large time, I was like, oh, it's going to be raining all the time.
It can't rain all the time.
Can't rain all the time. And the first movie, it was raining all the time, except when he says it can't rain all the time. The other question, Anthony, you brought this up earlier. What the fuck city is this? Where are they? Can you tell me what city this is? What country?
I thought at some scenes, I thought it was New York.
Yeah.
But then it's definitely not. I don't know what that city is.
I swear I saw cars with the steering wheel on both sides at one point. I was like, wait a minute. Is that steering wheel on the other side? Where the fuck are they? They shot this in Prague and Munich.
Oh, okay.
But it's just this vague city.
I guess the original Crow is in a weird city too. So that's not the weirdest criticism, but
isn't it like, confused. Where's the original Crow? I thought it was like a Detroit. Yeah, it's Detroit. And remember, it's Halloween night. It's like that night where everybody comes out. And then even in the first one, he doesn't come back until the next year at Halloween. And Halloween is tied in and makes a lot of sense. This one, it's just indeterminate time, indeterminate city. Sure, why not?
Yeah, there was also some like the... like when they're in the carnival and the music's playing, I'm like, is this a teen movie? What's happening here?
Yeah, the music choices were very odd. You had some obscure Joy Division, Gary Newman, but then I guess there was some new stuff.
They hung out at the lake with some friends.
Yeah, who are these people?
They're trying to lay low.
Yeah, they escaped from a fucking thing. Nobody's watching them. Yeah, they're just out in the open. Nobody cares. I was like, there's people fucking looking for you. Why are you at the club, you assholes?
Yeah, and it's not like these two have the most inconspicuous look.
Right? Very easy to spot.
One dude's got tats on his face and a mullet.
Wearing a fur coat.
I mean, that might be hard to spot these days.
Oh, my God, the fur coat.
The fur coat.
I was like, am I looking at Marilyn Manson here? What's going on?
Well, every crow needs a long black jacket. Like, that's just man.
Not the fur, but he wore a pink one at one point.
He had some weird, because they were staying at that guy's house. They just stole his clothes.
It is very... inevitable the way they made him look, but it's very Jared Leto-esque the way they had him.
Joker.
Yes, it reminded me of Jared Leto Joker a lot. But there were moments,
not a comparison you want.
It's not good. There were moments where
doesn't these people know that no one liked the Jared Leto Joker?
He looked just like him. There were shots where he looked kind of cool with his eyes where his head's down, and He's got this stare,
No,
this look.
he has a really unique like physicality, and I mean, he's a 6'4" guy. He's real lanky. I said this with Boy Kills World. Like, he's got a unique look. He looks like a fucking weird looking guy. He's got something to him where you can't really take your eyes off of him. But I get why they casted him. I just think they were just like, oh, we got this guy. He looks he looks weird.
They didn't give him anything.
You know what? It's a lot of wasted potential.
Yeah, they didn't give him anything.
He's
good
not
to
a
do.
bad actor either.
Yeah.
He knows what he's doing, I guess. But
I loved him better in Boy Kills World because that's how you use him. He just don't have him talk. Just have him do action. It's fine. It worked great. Like he was great.
Some of the line delivery in this was really bad.
It was rough. So I have a couple behind the scenes production news. Kind of explains why this movie turned out the way it is.
What had happened?
The first main thing is this movie has been in development hell for 15 years. They've been trying to make this movie. It all started in 2008 with Stephen Norrington wanting to direct. Of course, the guy who did Blade. And when I heard that, cool. I was like, holy shit, that would have been amazing. That is a good call. Now, I'm going to read you a list of actors. In the last 15 years, these are all people who are at some point in talks or actually cast in some version of this movie in the last 15 years. Mark Wahlberg. This is all for The Crow. Bradley Cooper for Eric Draven. Channing Tatum. Ryan Gosling. James McAvoy. Tom Hiddleston. Alex Skarsgård. Fucking Bill's brother or cousin or whoever he is. Luke Evans. Nicholas Hoult. And, of course, famously Jason Momoa at one point also connected. And then we talked about the tragedy of Brandon Lee on the set of the first one. And then this Alec Baldwin Rust set thing, they used airsoft guns entirely for this production, meaning all the muzzle flashes had to be put in post and there was no live rounds. So that's kind of a little bit of this movie probably never should have been made. Should have just died in development hell. But the thing is, you spent 15 years trying to make this, and this is the shit that you fucking come out with at the end. Like, that's what came out is shocking.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I feel like a good Crow movie could be easily made.
How do you make it?
It's easy. You just use the convention of the Crow. That's all you got to do but you have to make it a revenge movie, and you have to have the bad guy be a complete piece of shit, and maybe a little bit more of a heavy. Remember when we watched The Beekeeper?
Yeah.
Like the bad guy was like fucking senator.
Yeah.
And like they had all their fucking goons.
Yeah.
Like something like that you could do. It could be, it's all it is The Beekeeper and The Crow are both just revenge movies where he's single-handedly taking everything down.
Yeah. Should he be the only supernatural thing in the movie if you're doing this?
I think that there could be, I think it's okay to have other supernatural things.
I like that idea of another Crow. But
I don't like the idea of this, like, kind of like in between and all these rules about heaven and hell and how it works.
That purgatory looked like shit,
that just messes things up.
You're in some abandoned fucking industrial alley. What is this?
Like, I like the whole convention of if you hurt the Crow, then you hurt
yeah, that's the thing. If
he's connecting them to the land of the dead.
If you can figure out that the Crow is what he gets his power from,
right?
The Crow out.
And that's it. You just use that fucking thing and you rinse and repeat with different stories of different tragedies.
Well, 4 times they couldn't figure this out. And really, you don't need another.
Well, this is the problem with all the Crow movies.
Yeah.
Is number one, the City of Angels actually looked great. It just was too close to the original movie. And it almost was like the exact same retelling.
Right.
And that just didn't work. Then all Salvation and The Wicked Prayer were just, they had no money.
Yeah.
And they were just poorly made. Like, really, I'm talking about like B movie. And then this Eddie Furlong is like even more.
Eddie Furlong. Come on.
It's terrible. I mean, it's unwatchable.
Yeah.
All right. So like City of Angels getting a 14. I think that I would rather watch Crow City of Angels any day versus this Crow.
Oh my God, you know who else is in Wicked Prayer? David Boreanaz, Tara Reid, and Dennis Hopper. What the fuck kind of cast is this with Edward Furlong?
Yeah, it's so bad. It's unwatchable. Wow. It's really, really bad.
So, okay, let's do this. Anthony, give me your final thoughts. Give me a number. And then if you've seen other movies, rank it. But the big question is this better or worse than Madam Web?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to rank it. I mean, it's worse than the original Crow, for sure. I would rank it. I would give it probably ranking from a 3.5 to a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
Final thoughts. I mean, it just, how do you make a Crow movie boring?
I know. That's what I said.
And that's for me is the thing is we can talk about all the holes and like how the threads that they have are all half baked, but at the end of the day, how do you make a Crow movie?
Don't be boring.
How do you make an action revenge thriller, a goth horror revenge thriller, supernatural revenge thriller boring? And they did that. They did it. They did a great job at doing that.
Yeah.
As far as it being worse than Madam Web, I think Madam Web is worse just because I remember that I think people will be quoting Madam Web forever.
Yeah.
For some of those lines. Whereas The Crow, I don't know. I'm sure there's bad dialogue in there.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone gives a fuck about this movie enough. Like no one's gonna. I don't think there's gonna be a ton of people going back and watching The Crow and be like, look at that line.
Doesn't that make it worse than Madam Web?
I guess in that sense, it's like more forgettable. But I think Madam Web is legitimately like. I think Madam Web has like everyone in that movie tried to make a bad movie.
Yeah.
Whereas The Crow, I feel like. Whereas The Crow, it's just a lot of half-baked ideas, like Rugg said. So I don't think it's not a good movie. Don't get me wrong.
No, it's not.
I think Madam Web is like infamously all-time bad.
Okay.
Whereas The Crow is just really bad.
Okay, Ruggs. Same question.
Madam Web is its own movie, all right? And it's born out of something. It's an abomination to begin with because like nobody wanted all these Spider-Man adjacent movies to begin with. Madam Web is a character that no one fucking wants a movie about. It's like an Agatha friggin' thing. Like nobody wants this, but they're making it anyway. So it's already behind the 8 ball. And then they just friggin' took it all the way home by making just a dog shit movie that made no sense. And it's terrible. That's a terrible movie. This movie has a little bit more of a challenge because it has one of my favorite movies, which is the original Crow, because I read that Crow movie, and then like 2 years later, this movie came out.
Yeah.
And I fucking love that book, not because it's brilliantly written, but because there's something visceral about you're reading someone's pain.
Yeah, it was different too at the time.
It's like someone took their diary and made it into a picture about how he was trying to deal with this tragedy, and he was just pointing out all of the shit in the world, and there's poetry in there. There's weird visuals. It's unlike any other graphic novel I've ever read. It's more like a diary.
It blew my mind. To me, that book really showed me the power of graphic novel storytelling. It doesn't have to be superheroes. You can have your
it was so
cathartic. It could be personal and still be bad. Like it was amazing. It was great.
It introduced me to like the goth era. Like I was listening to that music anyway, but like it really made me like feel like, oh, like this is like a real thing. I thought I'd just like some of these bands, no, he's putting the lyrics in there.
Yeah.
So I read the book, and then I'm like, there's no fucking way they're going to make a movie like a pro goth movie.
Yeah.
And they did. And it was cool. Like people liked it. Like regular people went to the movies and thought it was cool. So, and I really responded to it. So now they're making this movie, and yes, they've made a lot of bad Crow movies. They've made a Crow TV show. But I think that I liked City of Angels, and then all the other movies got saddled with like being B movies and C movies and having no money behind them, and just they were crap from the get-go, right? But at least they had the decency to not make it Eric Draven.
Right.
So now this one has the hubris of money, and all these years have passed.
Yeah.
And nobody remembers the first movie as much. And on top of that, they have the hubris to actually use Eric Draven. And so now you're forced into the comparison with the other movie. Yeah. And so all of those things do not work. The movie's boring. It just doesn't feel right if you're using Eric Draven and you're doing this. They're added a lot of elements that don't work. And ultimately, I was bored. I was looking at my watch the entire time. Yeah. And I'm going to give it a 4.5.
Okay.
Just a little bit more than Anthony, because it's not like an unwatchable movie.
Yeah.
I might even be inclined to give it a 5. I'm going to be really generous and give it a 5. It's not an unwatchable movie, but it's a fucking failure of a Crow movie for sure.
But Madam Web is worse to you.
Absolutely. Like, I would watch this probably more than Madam Web. I mean, Madam Web might be more fun to watch because it's, it's got like, young, attractive women in it, but and just ridiculously bad things happening. It's probably more funny to laugh at,
Yes.
But this is more of a movie, I guess, like that's more conventional. It's just a revenge movie. Yeah. So I feel like it works in that sense, but it just doesn't. It doesn't really do anything great. Like you have so many revenge, like type things, like John Wick. You got The Equalizer. You got The Beekeeper. All of these these franchises that they do it like it's no big deal. So it's an easy one.
You got Monkey Man, you got Kill, you got Boy Kills World.
That's right.
They're all great. Okay. Wow. My response might shock you guys. Yes, I thought the movie is entirely forgettable, unnecessary. How do you make an action movie boring? They did it. The opera scene is the best scene in the movie, but you could just wait till that's on YouTube and watch that and have the same satisfaction. I'm going to give it a 4. This for me is a 4 out of 10. And a gun to my head, I would rather you watch Madam Web because it is so bad. To me, it's fucking hilarious. It is hilariously bad when you go back and think about what's actually happening.
I just count the amount of times where I face palm and shake my head.
It's great.
Madam Web was literally every 3 seconds.
I mean, I think boring is a bigger offense than being completely batshit ridiculous and nonsensical.
That's a tough one for me to figure out what
it's close.
Yeah.
I mean, so you have Borderlands and this movie and like Madam Web all fighting for like, what's the worst movie?
I don't know. I didn't see Borderlands, but like,
I didn't see Borderlands, but I heard it's bad.
I think a person like a random person can watch this movie and not be offended by it.
Sure. I guess they'll just be bored, but they'll be like, okay.
They might be bored. They might be bored, but
at least Madam Web will listen. And what the fuck is happening here? I don't know. What's worse.